speaking from experience, when you're in the heat of the moment, you know, I don't think Eddie Alvarez, of course, was it the second round? Yeah, it was the second round he got rocked, and it looked like he was, you know, potentially going to be finished. He managed to turn it around, much like Eddie Alvarez always does. He's very, very tough. I don't think he intentionally meant to, you know, for the fight to end like that. But when you're in the thick of it like that, you know, when you're in a fist fight or an MMA fight and shit's flying everywhere, you know, you're just fighting on instinct a lot of the time. So it was unfortunate. It really was. It was an amazing fight. Of course, we'll get to see it again Saturday night. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know.
Well, Eddie comes out and he says he wanted the easy way out. I mean, do you see anything in Dustin that makes you think?
Oh, I mean, that's a tricky one. You know, I mean, it seemed to me like Dustin was winning that fight, if you ask me. You know, yes, towards the end there, Eddie was in the driver's seat. But for the most part, I would have said Dustin was controlling that fight. Eddie did say this week it's because it was his first fight since the Conor fight, is that correct? Mm-hmm. So maybe that was, you know, giving him some internal demons. And that can happen, you know, in the fight game. You take a tough loss, the next time you go in there, you carry that with you. So maybe that was a factor, or maybe that's just Eddie saying something that sounds good, because it does sound good. It's a nice little insurance policy, you know. So I guess we'll find out Saturday night.
I want to ask you about like Dustin, you know, a fighter's mindset, right? Throughout his career, we've seen Dustin seems to not fight well when he's his most emotional, right? And this is like this rematch with all this stuff was on the line. So as a fighter, I mean, how do you go in there and knowing he's probably pissed off? He's probably pissed off at the first fight. He's probably pissed off at Eddie saying that he was basically ducking out of the fight. Like, how do you control yourself and control your emotions to make sure that emotion doesn't get the best of you?
Well, emotions can be your best friend and your worst enemy in a fight. I learned that the hard way. It took me towards the end of my career to control that. At the start, I used to try and get emotional. Of course, that's not the way to be. When you're in a frantic state of mind, you're never the best version of yourself, whether you're a reporter, a TV producer, a barman, or a fighter. If you're angry, you're emotional, you know, you're not the best version of yourself. So he's experienced, you know, he knows what's on the line. If he beats Eddie, he's got to be in line for a title shot pretty soon. Of course, it's a complicated scenario at the moment, but he's got to be at the top of the food chain, so to speak. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see anything silly. I don't think he's going to go in there angry. He's experienced, he's been there before.
How much do you think Eddie's championship experience, you know, just even outside the UFC when he's a title holder there, will play a factor in this fight? Dustin's been in 5-round main events, but Eddie's been in those championship fights.
Yeah, Eddie said that this week. He said he was an undercard fighter. I don't think that's necessarily true. And as I said, listen, I respect Eddie Alvarez. I'm a fan of Eddie Alvarez and of Dustin Poirier, but didn't look like that fight was going to get out the second round. So 3 rounds, 5 rounds, it doesn't really matter.
So do you have a pick, or you're not allowed to make
that? I'll make that at the FS1 pre-fight show, guys.
Yeah,
you know, you'll have to tune in. I know you'll all be on the edge of your seats until then. Where's Bisping going to go? But yeah, no. And not just that, I don't want to put that out there that this early in fight week. It's bad karma for someone to hear that. Not that they give a fuck what I say. Let's just get that out there.
What do you think about these two guys? I mean, they basically both came in and said, hey, we're fighting for a #1 contender spot, you know, so they knew it was in line. And then this morning we hear, oh, Conor's good, he's cleared to fight. I mean, Conor's likely going to come in and sweep away their title shot. How do you think that's affecting those guys mentally?
Do you honestly believe that that's a shock? Do you think that they didn't believe that Conor was always going to walk into that title fight? I think everybody knew that. They just cemented themselves as the next guy. But I think, unfortunately, they're probably going to end up fighting again. I would have assumed, unless they want to sit on the sidelines for 6 months, 8 months, even a year, who knows? So they'll probably fight again. But they'll just be, you know, at the front of the crowd, so to speak. I think they know that. You know, Conor McGregor, huge star, massive draw, all the rest of it. He was the champ, he got stripped. So really, by rights, Conor, you know, I mean, I'm not a cheerleader of Conor McGregor. I'm not a hater, far from it. But I'm not I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not the worst fan. It's sounding bad. But I'm not just going to say Conor deserves it. But he does. He does deserve it. He was the champ. You know, so he deserves it.
What about the co-main event? Jose Aldo, a lot of questions heading into this fight. You know, some people say he's lost a step. Others say he just fought Max Holloway twice. It's pretty easy to say that. What's your philosophy on that with him heading into this fight?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. When you look at it from the offset, you think, wow, he's lost 3 out of his last 4. But realistically, when you break it down, it's only to 2 opponents. Conor McGregor, of course, and then the Max Holloway, 2 fights. But they were tough fights. They were nasty beatings. You know, it wasn't just a case he got caught in an armbar or got caught with a right hook or something like that. It was, you know, it was a systematic beatdown from start to finish, and Max proved to be the better fighter on 2 occasions. Now, how's Jose going to deal with that? You know, that's always the big question. I guess we'll see Saturday night. I think he said this week that he realises the end's coming, which is, you know, it comes to everybody at some point, and I think he realises that. But if you look at him after the Conor fight against Frankie Edgar, he still looked as good as he's ever has done. And Holloway's a great fighter. Holloway's amazing. He really is. So I guess we'll see. I mean, he's a far more technical fighter than what Jeremy Stephens is. You know, but they always say brawler boxer and boxer brawler. So they've both got the perfect styles for one another. It's who can implement it the best.
And on the other side, your broadcast colleague Daniel Cormier just became he just became the champ.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about, you know, who's the best fighter ever. You got Cormier, you got Anderson Silva, who you defeated, I should add. George St. Pierre, John Jones. All these names come up. But one name that seems to be left out of the equation is Jose Aldo, a man who this is his first non-title fight since June of 2009. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, wow. And his first 3-round fight in like over a decade. So it's pretty crazy what he's done, but nobody seems to give him that kind of respect. Why do you think that is?
You know, that's an incredible point, the fact that you just mentioned that. First non-title fight in how long?
Since 09, June of 09.
I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. So he's been fighting the best of the best. So you're right. I mean, he should be in those conversations for sure. I think, I mean, he's got to be the top 5 though, right? On the pound for pound list, he's got to be up there. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but he certainly deserves to be in those conversations. I just think perhaps that 13-second loss to Conor hurt, obviously, and then he lost his last 2 as well. When you lose 3 out of your last 4, it just kind of, you know, obviously MMA fans are fickle, MMA journalists are fickle, you know. You fucking assholes. So, no, do you know what I mean? When you lose 3 of your last 4, then of course, once upon a time, maybe it was the pound for pound, but as of right now, we live in the present, he's probably not.
I'm talking all time. Like in terms
of alright, okay, change the question, okay. Yeah, of all time, yeah, maybe for sure, of course. Anderson, GSP, Demetrius Johnson, Jose Aldo, Anderson, you know, they all deserve to be in those conversations.
And on the other side of the coin, on the co-main event, we have Jeremy Stephens. He's 29th UFC fight, tying your record. As relevant as ever. I mean,
how many wins?
Not as many as you.
Let's just get that out there.
Yeah, there you go. But you have this guy. I mean, he's arguably at his best form ever. You look at the list of guys who have 25 or more UFC fights. He's the only guy that's like a relevant title contender at this point. He's been doing this since I think he was 21. How do you maintain that, like, that deep into your UFC career?
No, he's certainly in the best form of his career. He's beating the best guys and he's doing it super impressively and in violent fashion. You know, he always brings it every time. Jeremy Stephens is must-see TV for my money. How's he doing it? I don't know. You know, I mean, he's got a good team alliance. You know, they've got a great set of coaches, great training partners, all that good stuff. I mean, it's just the way it comes. You know, fighting as much as it is physical, it's a thinking man's sport, it really is. So maybe he's understanding the game a little more. You know, maybe he was a little reckless, maybe he was a little immature in terms of a fighter's mindset when he was younger. Now he seems to be, you know, a little more calculated. He's still got that aggressive style that he's known and loved for, but he seems to be a little more calculated in what he's doing. I'm sure with guys like Dominick Cruz, I'm sure that's helping.
And I mean, you mentioned that you have the most wins in UFC history. He has the most losses in UFC history. And, you know, he's obviously, to go through that, the ups and downs, everyone has always praised you for, like, your perseverance and ability to overcome tough moments. It seems like he's, you know, just capable of doing that.
Jeremy is as tough as they come. He really is. And, I mean, that's an impressive stat in its own right, you know, in a weird way, because, I mean, I'm always impressed by fighters when I see them. You know, like you see some of these fighters. I was looking at someone's record recently, and I think he'd lost his last 9 in a row or something like that. And you'd think it was on the Contender. I was researching some of their opponents to see the quality of the opposition they'd beat. And one guy had lost like, I think it was more. I think it was like 12, 13 in a row. I was like, holy shit! How do you still get back in there after knowing you're probably going to lose again and again and again? And there's multiple ways of answering that. One, maybe they don't have many options. Secondly, it's because they love it. Thirdly, they know they can do better. I always knew I could do better, and Jeremy obviously always had the talent and the skill and now he's putting it all together. You know, at this age of his career, it's beautiful to see.
I was talking to Ross Pearson, and he spoke about how, you know, he's had his head cracked open, he's had his teeth knocked out, and he was talking about this card and sort of saying that there's a lot of guys on this card who he just sees as being fighters, and they're these old school guys who they're just fighters. When you look at this card, do you see that? Because I mean, you look at Poirier, you look at Alvarez. There's a lot of guys who have they've been grinding for a long time. I mean, what does that add to your respect for a guy when they've just hung around and just fought?
Yeah, no, of course it does. I mean, it's nice to get in, win the title straight away, and get out with a ton of money. I mean, that's great. But also, you know, some people, you know, you're born a fighter, in my opinion. I mean, you can mold people a certain way. And, you know, I mean, some guys, they just love it. And even if they had all the money in the world, they'd still do it, you know. And some of the people on this card, they're cut from that cloth. Dominick's going to give you way better answers if he's got anything to him.
Well, Dom, now that you're here, I want to ask you, there's some interesting similarities, right, between Jose Aldo, Joanna, and Jacek, two former champions that, you know, kind of didn't lose a lot. It's just question marks about them, like, did they drop off or are they still relevant? But I want to ask you, I mean, as a champion, as a person that's been a champion, I mean, how do you get that out of your mindset? You know, that yes, I lost, but I'm still world class. I'm still championship level. I mean, does self-doubt creep in? Do you wonder, like, oh my gosh, have I fallen off the edge? I wonder how both Aldo and Joanna should approach this fight.
Well, I'm in a similar scenario. So what's the difference with me and them? There really isn't any. What makes the fighters the best in the world, in my opinion, is losing and being able to come back and get a streak going. Just like looking at champions when they win a belt and then they don't defend it. To me, they're not a champion until you defend it. I look at fighters like you're not a real, true belt fighter until you lose and work your way back and figure out a way to get back to winning. Bisping did it, Ross Pearson's doing it, Jeremy Stephens did it, he's back at the top. The list goes on, people who lose, who can come back. That is the true marker for me as to what a fighter is, because really all fighting is resilience, because it's a matter of time before we all lose. We can't do this forever unless you pick your fights the way Mayweather did.
Does self-doubt creep? I mean, when you've been to the mountaintop, when you've been at the highest level, and then somebody beats you, I mean, at that point, are you so like confident in yourself, like, you know, hey, I just need to tweak this, I need to tweak that, or is there a part of you that goes, oh, maybe I'm not that good?
Now, I was going to say, if you think that, then your career is over. As soon as you start thinking, I'm not that good and this and that, and I'm just here for a paycheck, yeah, I'm probably going to lose this fight, but I'm still going to do it, you know, it's over. It's over. Fighters don't think like that. You know, every time I stepped in there, I always believed I was going to win the fight. 100%. And even though I had people writing me off throughout my career saying, oh, he's done, he's over, he's got one fucking eye, it's done. I never accepted that. I never believed that, you know, and that's the way you have to be. Almost pig-headed, arrogant, whatever you want to call it. You know, as soon as that doubt creeps in, find a new job.
For me, you also can't deny what lost you the fight. So there's a fine line you got to ride. You can be like, I would say 95% of fighters and say, oh, this happened, my toe hurt, my weight cut was bad, this and that, I didn't walk across the street with my left foot forward instead of my right. I could go on for days. If you listen to I'd say 98% of fighters have an excuse to fall back on. The truth is, you lost. The judges didn't pick it in your favor, or you got knocked out or finished. So how are you going to make up this ground to fix the things that happen to you? Because while you're not a loser because you lost, you're not, Aldo is no less than he ever was. Jacek is no less than what she ever was. The competition is, however, growing. The sport is, however, evolving. And as athletes, as champions, and as guys who have put together a big streak and then maybe lose one or two, you've got to understand that the sport's evolving. And the more wins you get in this sport, the more adaptations the division is making to you. And then, the more that you're sharing what you're doing in the sport to be successful, the more you're building your division. Now you're giving back to the sport. Now you're giving back to the division. And from there, the sport grows. So technically, if you're doing your job, if you stay on top, you defend your titles, you lose and you come back, you're building the division, which means you're building the sport, which means that's what the whole point of this thing is. So losing is just part of it. You got to accept it.
And you guys, between the two of you, the majority of your most relevant fights have been 5-rounders, and you have people like Aldo and Joanna, they've spent the majority of their most recent career doing 5-round fights, and now they're going to 3 rounds. Does that change things, you know, strategy-wise, your ability to not have to pace yourself over 5 rounds? Maybe you can go harder, change your output, those kind of things. Is that like is that something real?
It changes it in the training camp. On the night when you're fighting, of course, the dangers are still as real, whether it's 1 round, 3 rounds, or 5 rounds. You still get knocked out, still get finished, still lose rounds. Change it in the training camp, change it with the diet, recovery, all that type of stuff. Workload in the training camp, the amount of sparring that you do. I mean, 3 rounds, I mean, I can't remember the last time I did a 3 rounder, but I remember thinking, shit, this is great. Because it's almost half the work. And of course, if you're going to spar 5 rounds, you're going to train 5, sorry, if you're going to fight 5 rounds, you're going to spar 5 rounds. And if you do that 3 times a week, 2 times a week, whatever it is, the workload is almost doubled. On the night, as I said, the dangers are still the same. And yeah, you can certainly have a different game plan. It all depends on the fighter. Some people like to think like that. Some people go for the knockout from round 1. And it all depends on your opponent. You know, if the guy is a slow starter, then maybe he'll start fast. You know, if the guy's notoriously, you know, it all depends on the opponent. So it's hard to answer that question.
I talked to Alex Hernandez, who's obviously a confident young guy, and he's very young. He's 25, and what he said was his starting point for MMA was watching, you know, you guys and being like, hey, that's what's possible, and I got to push past it. And he just said that this next generation that's coming up is going to be just absolutely, you know, on another level. Do you believe that? Do you just think that it's...
That's what we're hoping for. I'm not here to tell him he's not going to be better than the generation before, and if he's not, then what do you do? So that's what this thing was about. That's what Bisping fought for. That's why I fought. That's why I fight, to bring the level up. So good, Hernandez. Let's see.
Who's Hernandez?
Let's see you get up.
He said it respectfully. I want to be clear.
No, he is. I'm serious. I'm not joking.
First guy to make our fight.
Oh, that guy. Sorry, pardon. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I know who he is.
Now he's calling you out
I'm
after
just
this.
joking.
No, the truth is,
I've done my homework, guys.
he's in the right mind frame. You know,
He's got a bright future.
I said the same thing when I started this thing. I said I'm going to be better than the people before me, the people that were winning. I mean, that's the way you're supposed to think. I have no problem with him thinking that. I hope he keeps it.
What's the key for you know, guys who are still competing? When you're looking at these guys and being like, okay, well, they've been training since they were 5 years old.
But I know more than them. They can have the youth, they can have the speed and the power and the, you know, have all the girth and the world. But I've been there, I've wanted it, and I've completed it, and I know a system to do it again. And I also have the tools that you can't take away that I've learned over the years. So regardless, up and coming, young, not, you just gotta adapt and keep moving forward. I mean, what's Bisping? 130 years old, he's still here. You know.
Look fucking good, though. The sport's always evolving, you know, and we're learning new ways to train and new techniques, new methods, etc. And that's great, you know. And then the future generations will be better than the generations today. I mean, if you look at boxing, look at all sports, world records are always getting broken, and that'll continue to happen. And the skill level will increase, athletic ability will increase, and that's great. And I look forward to watching it. But you can't buy or train for experience.
Dom, when you fight,
Hot lava.
What's that?
Hot lava. Yeah, I like it. Sorry.
When you fight, you want to hit and not get hit. That's martial arts. And you see Alvarez, and he talks about how when he's suffering in a fight, he knows to trust the process because that means he's going to win. What part of you admires that, or what part of you thinks that's crazy?
Well, to me, that's a 5-round mentality, and that's what Alvarez fights with. He fights with a 5-round mentality. And to go back on that question, 3 rounds to 5 rounds, it's double the workload. When you do 5 rounds, it's less than that. But that also takes away your margin for error in 3 rounds. Now I don't have that 10 minutes of cushion. That what happens if I lose the first round, lose the third, I kill him in the second. Now I have 4th and 5th to get to win the fight still. So there's things you got to think about, and that's how Eddie Alvarez thinks. That's always how he's thought. He says, you know what? If I'm hurting, I know for a fact this guy's hurting as bad, if not more than me. And 9 times out of 10, he's right. The only time he hasn't been right was Conor McGregor, and that was because he just got hit first. And Conor's the type of guy that will always benefit in a 3-round fight. Why? He has the gift of power. And that's okay. Some people have that gift, some people don't. Some people have the gift of, maybe I don't have power, but I'm going to grind you out until your power is literally nothing, and then I'm going to choke you in the 5th round. So everybody's got their gifts, and the key to this thing is understanding yourself, what your gift is, and not wanting to be somebody else, being who you are, and adapting your gifts to each fight accordingly for 3 rounds, 5 rounds, each opponent as it may be.
Dom, I asked the same question to Mike about Jeremy Stephens before you arrived, but you're obviously very close with him. You'd be around. You look at all the fighters in the UFC with 25 or more UFC fights. He's pretty much the only relevant title picture type of guy right now. How is he being able to do this deep in his career? I mean, he has the most losses in UFC history on his record, but he's as relevant as ever at this point. How, being personal up front with him, how is he being able to do this and put this together at this stage of his career? So many hours in the octagon, so many years in the sport.
Jeremy's an example of a fighter who had all the tools his entire career and just couldn't quite gather himself outside of the octagon. And there's a lot of fighters this way that could be and should be maybe multiple-time world champions, John Jones, and can't keep the life together outside of the octagon at times. And it takes away from what they can be and what they are. I wouldn't say that it did that necessarily all the time for Jeremy, but that explains the win one, lose one mentality that he's had in the past. Well, he's adapted to it. He's let go. He's more focused. The time has taken over. He's more calm. His brain has matured. It's just maturity, guys. That's all it is. Sometimes it takes longer for some than others.
And I don't train,
It's just maturity. Smart. But you can see it in his face, guys. I mean, look at him in his interviews. Look at him. Everything is different. I encourage you, go back and watch interviews from 3-4 years ago and watch Jeremy's interviews now. He's got a team behind him that he feels backing and confidence that aren't trying to take from his career for themselves. He's got a team around him that wants to see Jeremy do great because we want to see Jeremy do great. Not we want to see Jeremy do great so that I can say, hey, I coached him and I'm a really good coach. And
Which is the majority of fight sports. And, the corners, they love it. They want to talk so much in the corner because they want to be heard on the camera, or they're all competing. I'm not talking about my team recently, but I've had it in the past. They all want to be the one walking out with you.
And you'll see it. And you got to spot those guys in this sport. And Jeremy's been through this for so long. He's spotted those guys, gone through them, and now he's with the team that he trusts. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe in a year from now, we won't be that team anymore, but that's okay. We'll release him and we'll let him do what he needs to for his own career because we have nothing to gain from him except watching him succeed. And that type of mindset's what's helped Jeremy because he's got support and real coaching.
So Dom, I spoke to Aljamain Sterling a couple of weeks ago about the bantamweight title picture, and he mentioned he thought the winner of the fight between you and Marlon Moraes would fight for the title. Is that a fight that's going to happen?
I don't know. I just got cleared by the doctor, so I'm good to go. I'll talk to Shelby. I'll talk to everybody. I'm on track though, so I will be going to fight. I'm going to fight before the end of the year is my goal. So we'll see what happens. Aljamain Sterling doesn't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I know TJ Dillashaw and Cody are fighting, and I should be having the winner of that. And that's what everybody wants to see. So hopefully, somebody gets some wits about him and gives me that fight right away. We'll see what happens.
Would it line up for the card in Toronto in December? Because they haven't announced any fights yet. That's a big pay-per-view.
Hey, you want to line up? Let's do it.
Sure. There you go.
Get him to sign it. I'll take it.
For the record, John told these guys not to ask you any of those questions, so don't be mad at him.
I want to ask about Joanna. We talked about mentally, but what about execution and technique-wise? Did you guys see anything in her last 2 fights that suggests there's any sort of drop-off in her performance at all? Or if she fights like she did in her fight against Rose, which was a pretty close fight, do you think that's enough to get her back on the championship track?
I think, to be honest, the last fight she did great. She fought well. She fought a smart fight. She's just fighting an opponent who has similar tools to her and is a little bit longer. Against Tecia Torres, she's beaten that kind of opponent before. Look at Andrade, Jessica Andrade. Similar type of game plan. Use the jab, keep it at the end of a jab. I don't see Jan Jacek slipping or anything like that. It's just hard. There's some great female fighters in that division. Rose Namajunas was. She's coming into her own, she's coming into her prime, she's getting better and better. Obviously, finishing Joanna the way she did in the first fight gave her a ton of confidence going into the rematch, and vice versa, that gave Jan Jacek a little bit of doubts going into the second fight as well. If Joanna goes out there and fights the way she normally fights, no disrespect to Tecia, I should say she'll cruise to a pretty decent victory here.
Does it say something about her that she just, after that Rose fight, just took a fight 3 months later? Joanna,
Well, no, because she still believes that she's the best. It goes back to what I said before. She still believes, she feels that she won that rematch. Obviously she can't bitch about the first one. That was pretty decisive. But the rematch, she feels that she won. She feels that it was an iffy decision. It was a somewhat close fight. She feels that she's still the best and she wants to go out there and prove it. At the end of that fight, she wasn't necessarily beat up. There's no better way of getting another fight, getting right back in there, beat somebody else. And she feels like she's going to get another title fight after this. I don't think so. I think that's a little too soon, but still.
Loses, maybe.
If oh yeah, for sure. If Rose loses, maybe. If I win the lottery, I don't have to speak to you people.
I know you guys got to bounce, but I want to ask you both, like in your prep for this, is there a name or a fight that you were looking at this card that, because everybody's talking about the main event, the co-main, was there anything that stuck out to you on the card, top to bottom, that you're like, that's a person to watch, or that's a fight to watch, because it's going to be nuts?
I mean, Bisping won't know, but Hernandez versus Aubin-Mercier is honestly going to be a very good fight. It really is. I mean, because we haven't seen Hernandez.
I haven't seen the guy in a while, but he's still going to talk some shit. Last time I spoke to him, he told me that he loves me. He did.
And I mean it. I love all of you too. Okay?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Who has the bigger upside in this lightweight division, Olivier or Alex Hernandez?
Who has the bigger upside?
Yeah.
That's what this fight's happening for, man.
You buy into Olivier though?
It is.
We're in Canada, so I'm just curious. Olivier,
Yeah.
He's had some really big.
No, his last fight, he looked great. He looked good.
Well, what I like about the matchup itself is that you got a guy who hasn't been forced to grapple at all. I mean, you look at his stats, he hasn't even had a takedown attempted on him yet. That being said, who's a better matchup than a guy who's going to hang on you like a monkey, you know, and just try to drown you with his weight? Aubin-Mercier will do that. So we'll see what happens. Now Hernandez gets tested. Can he just walk through him and knock him out like he's been doing to everybody else? I don't know. You know, he's tough to, Aubin-Mercier is tough to get a hold, tough to hit. His striking is improved. He's got power in both hands. But more than anything, Hernandez has just seemed more powerful than everybody. And I don't know if he's going to be more powerful than a giant Aubin-Mercier.
He won his debut, Hernandez. He's ranked 13th. Aubin-Mercier is 6-1 at lightweight. He's not ranked. Is that stupid? Does that make any sense
The
to you?
rankings to me are ridiculous. But
Ross
that's
Pearson.
another story.
That's right, yeah, of course. You know, I mean, he's had some tough times recently. He got back to winning ways in his last fight. Been training with you, but Ross is always fun to watch, of course. Known him for a long time, so I'm a little biased. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Ross do his thing.
Like, just one, we asked all a personal question. You posted that photo on your Instagram the other day. It looked like your eye was much different. Did you get something done?
No, it's just, you know, the amazing powers of recovery. It's incredible what you can do if you put your mind to it. Yeah, CBD-MD, man. I started taking that shit and my eye just regenerated. It's fucking sick.
It does look a lot better. You stop getting punched.
I might come back. Who knows? You know.
Do you spar still or no?
I haven't been in an MMA gym since November. When did I get knocked out of Castellan? November something. I'm too busy. I've got better things to do. If you're not going to pay me, what the fuck am I in the gym for? I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah, no, I still go down there, I still train. You know, I love to work out, I love martial arts, done it my entire life. So, but yeah, no, I'm happy.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.